And good morning, and welcome to Unfiltered Vision News, bringing you the news unfiltered Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Eastern. My name is Dr. Ashaki Noni Nichols, and I will be your host. Thank you so much for joining me this morning on a Thursday. It is Mighty Men Thursday, and it is open mic. So if you would like to be a part of the conversation here on the broadcast, please send me a direct message on X. My handle is It's Our Turn RP, or you can let me know in the comment section that you would like to be a part of the show, and I can email that information to you. You can also email unfilteredvisionnews@gmail.com, and I can send you the link from there. So again, thank you so much for joining me here on Unfiltered Vision News, and let's get into our Kids Corner.
Made excuses. "I'll handle it later," he'd say, avoiding tasks and pushing his responsibilities aside. One day, Jensen forgot his homework. "I was too busy," he told his teacher, though he had spent hours watching cartoons the night before. At home, his chores were piling up. "I'll do it later," he told his mom, who was already exhausted from a full day of work. Jensen skipped soccer practice, telling his coach, "I wasn't feeling well," even though he had spent the day playing video games. Excuses caught up with Jensen. His grades slipped, his soccer team lost a match, and his mom was left to clean up the house alone. Jensen realized his excuses were hurting him and others. He decided to change and started taking responsibility for his actions. Over time, Jensen's grades improved, team won matches, and his mom was proud. He learned actions speak louder than excuses. Excuses may feel easy, but they only hold us back. Taking responsibility helps us grow and make those around us proud.
Yes. So let's always remember to do that, because our actions do truly affect others. And with that, let's get into honoring God with our body. So God, please guard our mind and our thoughts. God, help me to fix my thoughts on what is true and honorable and right and pure and lovely and admirable. So I will think about things that are excellent and worthy of praise. God, please protect our ears and help us listen to your voice, God. God, help me to be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. God, please protect our eyes from sin's damage. God, I make a covenant with my eyes not to look lustfully. God, please speak life over my mouth. God, set a guard over my mouth. Lord, keep watch over the doors of my lips. God, please help my hands to serve generously. God, help me to do good to everyone, and especially to those who belong to our family in the faith. God, please protect my reproductive organs and help me to honor you, God, with purity. God, help me to honor you with my body. And God, please protect our feet as we walk along your path. God, let your word be a lamp for my feet and a light on my path. And if you are just joining us here today on Unfiltered Vision News, that is something that we say every day. Sometimes I might throw a different prayer in there, but I usually like to start the day off with a prayer. And Spud McKenzie says, good morning, and good morning to you too. And good morning to those out there listening either on X, YouTube, or Facebook. Thank you so much for joining me here this morning. So we've got a little bit of news to get into, and the first bit of news I'd like to go to, I'd like to check out All Sides. Haven't been there in a while, because I've been bringing you guys some highlights of some different information, I should say, and really digging in there. But let's check this out. So the first article talks about International Energy Agency agrees to release 400 million barrels of energy oil stocks. Okay, let's see what's happening. So the International Energy Agency said its member countries would release 400 million barrels of oil from their energy stocks in response to the price increase from the Iranian war. So for the details, it's the largest reserves distribution in history, more than twice the size of the IEA's previous record of 182 million barrels in 2022, following Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The IEA has 32 member countries and 13 association countries, representing 75% of global energy demand. Some of its members include the US, Japan, Germany, the UK, Australia, Italy, Mexico, France, and Canada. The U.S. said it would contribute 172 million barrels from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve starting next week, according to the Department of Energy. The IEA Executive Director, Faith Birol, said the decision was made unanimously in response to raising global oil prices tied to the ongoing Iran war. On Wednesday, Iran warned that oil prices could reach $200 a barrel. The war has stopped tanker traffic through the Strait of Hormuz, which accounts for approximately 20% of the world's oil shipping. According to NBC News, global oil demand is currently over 100 million barrels a day. Okay, I'd stop there. So if the demand globally is 100 million barrels a day, and y'all got four, like, so we're good for 4 days. We're not even good for a whole week. Okay, that's concerning. So Reuters reported the U.S. has approximately 415 million barrels of crude oil in its SPR and another 439 million barrels of commercial reserves in private hands as of February 27th. Wow. Wow. Okay, but that 100 million represents global. It doesn't represent just like one pocket, but still. Oh my goodness. So this is how the media covered it. Wall Street Journal noted the release will provide only a limited reprieve for global oil prices and cited economists warning that a sustained increase in oil prices risk spurring inflation and triggering stock market correction. It also quoted world leaders, including the French finance minister, who said they must send a very clear message. Fox Business, which leans right, led with Iran's threats of $200 for a barrel of oil, contextualizing that within the largest surges in oil prices since 2022, it quoted the energy secretary praising Trump's action in Iran, saying Iran has threatened America's energy security for 47 years. And rest assured, America's energy security is as strong as ever. NBC said the release didn't bring down oil prices, noting costs surpassed $90 a barrel by late Wednesday. It emphasized challenges that oil companies and cargo firms are facing in the strait and the lag time between the IEA decision and actual delivery of oil barrels. And for this, it just reminds us that we need to have more than one source, right? Now, a lot of people say, well, there's electricity. You got to remember, electricity runs off of fossil fuels, which happen to be gasoline and oil. So they are not, energy isn't self sufficient, if that makes sense. And a lot of, well, what about the wind turbines? What about solar? They do deliver some energy, but not in the capacity that oil does. And that's in my opinion our biggest problem. We really do not have sufficient secondary energy sources that are effectively either equal to or better than oil. So we've got to get there, right? And those, and you know what, it may be out there, but they may be suppressing it from the public, and that's just speculation, right? Because at this point, in my opinion, they just want a world full of slaves and people begging for a solution worse than the problems that they solve. See, they want you begging for a solution like, help us get us out of this. We don't care what it costs. That's where they want us. And we cannot get to that point, period. Do not get to the point where you will turn over your freedom for anything. If you got to figure it out, carpool, bicycle, figure it out. But don't beg these leaders for a solution worse than the problem that it's even going to solve. You tell them you figure this out and you fix it. You fix what you're broken, right? So, inflation remained steady in February. Experts warn Iran conflict could cause a March spike. Absolutely. Absolutely, it's going to cause a spike. Come on now. I just read you about the oil prices. So, when gasoline prices go up, the cost of goods and services are going to go up. So, everybody was already complaining about the cost of groceries. It's only going to get worse. I'm just telling you. It's only going to get worse. You've got to figure out a different food source. Start growing your own fruits and vegetables if you can. Figure out local. And when I mean local, I'm talking about your local butchers. Um, Stay away from the grocery stores. Stay away from the big chains because that's where it's going to cost you even more. Find a local farmer's market. Find local and purchase from there. So, year over year inflation was 2.4% in February and increased on a monthly basis by 0.3% from 0.2% in January. So, annual core inflation remained at 2.5%, increasing 0.2% after a 0.3% rise in January. The Consumer Price Index for all urban consumers, CPIU, increased 0.3%, and the CPI for March is scheduled to be released on April 10th. Products such as housing, home, healthcare, gasoline, and meat all saw rate increases. Eggs and rent saw drops. Eggs and rent saw drops. Sorry. For context, while January's year over year inflation rate cooled more than economists expected, February's aligned the expectations, though Fox Business, that leans right bias, noted that CPI was in line with the expectations of economists polled by LSEG. However, the U.S. Israeli strike on Iran on February 28th has caused oil and gas prices to spike, leaving economists pessimistic about March's future data, right? Ooh, so they have another topic: will oil prices rise due to the conflict in Iran? Okay. Let's see. So, how the media put it, news outlets across the political spectrum framed their coverage around the ongoing conflict in Iran and its political economic implications. The Associated Press on the left, for example, said its headline that inflation held steady before the attack on Iran sent oil prices higher. Newsweek, that is center, similarly reported inflation holds steady for now. AP's article used slanted language and subjective qualifiers against the Trump administration in stating data has been overtaken by a conflict that began when the U.S. and Israel attacked Iran on February 28th, causing wild gyrations in oil prices as shipping lanes through the Persian Gulf suffered a rare shutdown. Gas prices have jumped sharply and are expected to fuel higher costs broadly. Now, both Newsweek and Fox Business also gave voice to experts who, excuse me, expressed concerns over a spike in March, though Fox did so uh, less prominently, a bias by viewpoint placement. And while the outlet's headline said inflation held steady, its its lead day said remained elevated. Its lead said it remained elevated. Okay. Yeah, I mean, when you're messing with, how should I say, the core of the food chain, right? Because again, food has got to be transported, and it takes oil and gas, it takes diesel, right, to get to us consumers. When that price goes up, and the manufacturer has to absorb that cost. They pass that cost on to the consumer because they still have to make money so they can deliver and make more products. I mean, it is a very vicious cycle, and people really don't pay attention to it until it hurts, right? I'm just saying, just saying. So let me check this out, this article. Okay, so this was about a week ago. Well, actually, 10 days ago. Will oil prices rise due to the conflict in Iran? Well, yeah, yeah. So this is more so hindsight of what they saw in to where we are now. So we kind of go back in time and look at, you know, what they were projecting 10 days ago and increased prices, no sign of panic, right? That was NPR. Noted that global crude oil prices surged past 9% on Monday, but analysts speaking to the outlet said the crude market is extremely measured. I don't see panic out there. NPR also wrote that while prices rose sharply since before the US and Israel attack on Iran, it is far from a worst case scenario. NPR quoted an analyst from the app Gas Buddy who estimated that gasoline prices may rise between 10 and 30 cents on average over the next few days. Now, this is before Iran came out and said, hey, your stuff could be, going up to $200 a barrel. Now, on average, I want to say oil floats between $65 and $70 per barrel. Trump was trying to get it down to $60 per barrel. That's when we saw, a real break in the gas prices for the crude oil. But now imagine from 60 to 200, that's like a 3 times increase in the oil, a little bit over 3 times. So that's where we're at right now. But I'll make sure to link these articles that I've shared with you guys so we can go through it. I mean, look, and it is going to be painful what we're going through. And I know they've called it a war. Some people are calling it a conflict. Until Congress fully gets involved, it's a conflict. It's not a war. Because if it was a war, then it would have been done illegally because Congress is not involved. So people need to pick a lane and make a decision. I'm just saying, either it's a conflict or everybody's going to jail. What are we doing? Stop. Words matter. I'm just saying. And with that, I wanted to also remind everyone about a friend of the show, Miss Pamela Denise Long. She is running for the congressional Senate seat in Illinois. So if you are in the Illinois area, please make sure you get out to vote for her. The voting day is March 17th. Okay. So get out to vote. We've had her on the show. I'm sure some of you guys follow her on social media. So make sure, again, if you are in Illinois, you get out to vote for Dr. Pamela Denise Long. Now, let's get into our trending topics. We got some interesting trending topics today for X. I was really surprised about some of these. I was like, what is really going on? So let's check out this first one. Now, this is going to be money. So let me get that up. So apparently, Madani hosts first Ramadan iftar at City Hall. New York City's first Muslim mayor, Zarhan Mandani, hosted the inaugural official Ramadan iftar on March 11 in the historic Governor's Room, joined by community members, staffers, and influencers from diverse backgrounds. Supporters like Jewish attendee Matt Jerskov Shrinovsky praised the event for fostering unity amid global hatred, while critics, including conservative voices, decried it as blurring church state lines and invoked 9/11 memories. Mandani's office described it as a celebration of the city's diversity, akin to past interfaith gatherings, with no lawsuits filed so far. Right? Because I don't know, is anybody having like Easter uh, at the governor's mansion or the governor's room? Is anybody holding like Hanukkah type services? You know what I mean? It's like, here's, if everybody was doing something like this, I'd be like, oh, this is just another religion, you know what I'm saying, doing their thing. But nobody is. So what are you doing? Like if you wanted to hold something special as the mayor somewhere else, not on the like the taxpayer dime location, that would be different. But okay, I don't know what the precedent we're setting. I'm not sure what this is about because I don't practice Islam. So they're doing the whole prayer. So they're doing all of this. Wow. Wow. New York City under Mandani, not AI. Okay, so let's see what's going on.
Allahu Akbar. Want to make some of that?
A moment where you're asking yourself how you can reconnect to who growing up with, being taught that
منورين والله والله الله أكبر.
Okay.
Want to make some of that?
So they're doing all that. All that. Wow. Okay, an ISIS suspect, and he's showing this finger symbol. And that was another article that I had, that the video from Mayor Mandani's iftar sparks ISIS salute debate. So you can see he's lifting his finger, and you can see this. So the video made for March 11th at City Hall or Gracie Mansion shows the guest in the room with flags and portraits, prompting accusations it matches the ISIS salute made by 18-year-old Emir Balat during his arrest for an ISIS inspired bombing attempt near the residence on March 7th. Critics like Laura Loomer tied it to radical influence in City Hall, while defenders explain the raised finger as the shahada or tawhid symbol for Muslim prayer used by figures like UFC's Khabib. I'm not even gonna mess with that last name. And not exclusive to ISIS. Neither Mandani's office, excuse me, nor the guest have responded publicly amid the mayor's efforts to promote unity in a diverse city. Yeah. I don't even know what to say about what's happening in New York right now, but yeah, this is what's going on. Now, in Newark, the Muslim heritage flag ceremony draws online backlash. So, the event organized by the Newark Muslim Heritage Coalition during New Jersey's official recognized Muslim Heritage Month honored local Muslim contributions with chants of Allahu Akbar and participation from officials like Councilwoman Amina Bey. Similar flag risings occur for Black History Month without issue. Okay, but a video resurfaced in March, prompting critics to decry it as an Islamic takeover and cite a state flag law that experts say does not apply to this community banner. The clip highlights ongoing tensions over multiculturalism in public spaces, especially in diverse Newark. So here's the flag, Newark City Hall, New Jersey, they're raising an Islamic flag while the crowd chants Allah Akbar. Okay, this isn't assimilation. So let's watch the video. Okay. Now, here's the interesting part because it says similar flag risings occur for Black History Month. Why are y'all always dragging us into this? And when I say us, I mean the American Negro. Why are you dragging us into? See, we're Americans, first of all. That flag actually represents our heritage here on this soil, right? People of the Islamic faith are not an ethnicity, okay? Muslims are a religious follower of Islam. That's what a Muslim is. They are a follower of Islam. That is not an ethnicity, okay? Yes, we do have freedom of religion here, but Christians aren't raising up flags because we're Americans, okay? Got the American flag, all right? What is going on? And just chanting Allah Akbar like that's okay. This is what people say before they bomb things. Like, what is going on? What is going on? That should never be allowed. And here's my thing. That flag shouldn't be allowed. The LGBTQ flag should not be allowed. Okay? If you want to flag at your house, that's your business. But in public taxpayer spaces, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Now, if you want to say, well, then you can't raise the Black Heritage flag, fine. We'll just use the Black Heritage flag in other places. It doesn't have to be on the policy in public dime. That's fine. I'm okay with that because we have Black History Month and we celebrate Black heritage all throughout the year. But it's not a religion. It's not. It is not a religion. Are Christians going around on public spaces, again, raising up a flag? No, Christians are not. Buddhists are not. So this oppressive, and it is, form of Islam needs to stop because I've not seen the Nation of Islam do something like this. Help me out. If anybody's got some friends in the NOI, help me understand what's going on because this is crazy. This is crazy. So Super Magnet Man says go vegan live 15% longer. Yeah. Thank you guys for joining me here this morning. Says gas will be over $10 a gallon before the end of the year. Oh yeah, easy. It says they. Everyone points fingers, but forget they have 3 fingers pointing back at themselves. Yeah, go vegan and live long 15% longer. Yeah, and Uncle Coolwater, thank you so much for reposting the stream and joining us this morning. But like I'm saying, if anybody's got some friends that are practicing Islam, please let me know what is going on. And again, I see this as a form of Sharia law. This is Sharia stuff. This is the stuff we don't want from here. These are the things that I'm like, everybody, if this is what you want to participate in, you know what, that's great. That's fine. But what you're going to have to do,
forces with President Trump.
You're going to have to leave the soil. You need to go. You need to go back to whatever country you left because nobody over here wants to do that, right? Nobody over here wants to do that. That is something that, yeah, I I could live without it. You know, um, when I think about people who lost their lives, you know, during 9/11, and to see people, you know, championing and shouting out that phrase that we hear associated with acts of terrorism. It's not associated with anything good when people are yelling Allah Akbar. It's associated with terrorism on this soil and other places. What are you doing? I know what you're doing. You're trying to get people in the United States to go, well, this is just our religion. You're not a religion. You're not a religion. And you need to admit that. You're not a religion. Because a religion actually seeks to do good by others. You don't. From what I've learned about the Quran, you're able to lie to people to get what you want. So you can lie, cheat, and steal to get what you want. You can also deceive people. You you, you can kill people. That's what your book says. We need to kill all these other people to get what we want. Then you know what? Your form of religion does not align with America because see, we actually have laws against murdering people. We do. And then like, well, you guys have abortions. Yeah, we do. And that's still a battle and a fight, right? Because some people get access to information and say, hey, you should keep your baby while they're encouraging other people to kill their babies. Again, side issue. But you're not supposed to commit murder over here. But your religious practice says that you should. What is going on? Again, I want to have somebody from the NOI explain what's going on because I don't see, when I say the NOI, I'm talking about the Nation of Islam. I don't see them acting like that. And any young men that come from that, their stance is I learned how to be a better man. I learned how to take care of my family. I learned how to do things the right way by working harder and smarter. Then what is this other form of Islam that's coming onto our soil? What is that about? That's all I'm saying. We need to define what's really going on. And so, with that, we're going to get into our next article that I kind of jumped the gun on a little bit. Now, this is about glyphosate, you guys. Um, it's really kind of intense. So, let me bring up the news article.
When RFK Jr. joined forces with President Trump in 2024, he brought with him a voting bloc of mothers who wanted dangerous chemicals out of their kids' food. But now the MAGA and MAHA movements are clashing over the herbicide glyphosate, the most widely used weed killer in U.S. agriculture. Before the 2024 election, RFK Jr. tweeted that glyphosate was one of the likely culprits in America's chronic disease epidemic. So it came as a surprise to many when the president signed an executive order on Wednesday providing immunity for producers of glyphosate-based herbicides, which may have been linked to cancer in some studies. The administration says the shift in policy over the weed killer was due to its necessity for national security and defense. But the MAHA moms don't agree. Zen Honeycutt, the founder of Moms Across America, tweeted her disgust with the move, saying, literally sick to my stomach. It's going to kill and sterilize countless American people. With these competing visions, greatness versus health, which one will prevail? Another prominent activist behind the movement is Kelly Ryerson, co-executive director of American Regeneration, and she joins me now. Kelly, thank you so much for being here. So for those of us who are not familiar with what glyphosate is, why do you say it's dangerous to our health?
Yeah, glyphosate is the most used pesticide of all time. It is the most widely used pesticide in this country. We have farmers using it across the country. The problem is that it's so widely used and has been sold as being non-toxic and safe, has been repeatedly reapproved for use, but is in actuality tied to a number of different diseases, including infertility. It's connected to liver disease, kidney disease. It attacks the microbiome. It kills the beneficial gut bacteria. Really, all of these different conditions that now you're seeing on massive population scale. It's a chemical that you will find in your urine, your breast milk, your hair. It's been shown to show up in semen. It's been shown to kill sperm. And we have this fertility crisis in this country. There's so many problems with this particular chemical, and that's why it became a banner chemical for MAHA.
So Kelly, this executive order was put in under the Defense Production Act. The president's executive order argues that there's no direct one-for-one chemical alternative to glyphosate-based herbicides, and that major restrictions of glyphosate would result in economic losses for growers and make it untenable for them to grow food. So this EO is essentially arguing that they're trying to prevent a crisis in terms of growing food, especially for small-scale farmers. But you're talking about another crisis, which is one of disease and health. So how do these two things reconcile?
Yeah, it's complicated because it is true that right now our farming system at large is dependent on glyphosate. The system has been built around supporting these chemicals in a chemical agriculture system. And so that is something that the country needs to be moving away from by supporting regenerative agriculture practices to be able to decrease the use of these pesticides. That's something that Secretary Brooke Rollins has started to do with her $700 million investment into regenerative agriculture recently. But what's really missing here, and I think what's so enraging about this executive order, is it's not for now. For national security, we need to preserve this supply so that we're not supplying from China. But in the meantime, we're going to be investing in all of these other things to make sure that farmers can get off this chemical treadmill and we can decrease the toxicity of our food supply. That's just not something that's happening. The other thing that's really important to note is that the timing of this is very, very suspicious because right now Bayer, which manufactures glyphosate, is working really hard to get immunity from lawsuits so that we can't sue when we get sick from exposure. They're trying to pass these bills in the state level and the federal level. The president went and backed Bayer's bid to go to SCOTUS and have a lawsuit that if Bayer wins, we will no longer be able to sue any pesticide manufacturer when we get sick from exposure. That's 57,000 different pesticides. And now he's come in with this the same week that Bayer has claimed that there'll be a settlement of some kind for all cancer victims of this carcinogen. And the problem with that settlement is that all cases going forward, they will still be having to pay out because they're not stopping the sale of glyphosate. So instead, he's put this immunity to just put a cap on it, just like they did with Agent Orange.
Well, like you said, it's complicated. Farmers that I talk to, big and small, say it's essential to them being able to produce food for the country. And of course, you just talked to us all about the health risks and the evidence that you have that is connected to very serious chronic disease. Kelly Ryerson, thank you for being with us tonight, and I hope to have you back to continue the conversation about this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So my question is, what were you using before you were using glyphosate? That's the question. Like, what is really going on? So here is the executive order promoting the national defense by ensuring an adequate supply of elemental phosphorus and glyphosate-based herbicides. And to her point, Bayer bought Monsanto, Kennedy fought Monsanto and won. He won. And they had to pay out billions of dollars because they were at fault for poisoning people, in essence. Okay? So now, the same people that basically the president has in his hand, he's, like the lady was saying, basically giving them a type of immunity. Now, this has not been determined in the courts, but if the court kind of sides with Bayer, they'll be immune. So I need the administration to really listen to the people. Now, their I don't want to say their excuse, but their stance, right, on what is going on is elemental phosphorus is a pervasive in defense supply chains and is therefore crucial to military readiness and national defense. It is a key input in smoke um, emulation and incendiary devices and is a critical component for manufacturing the semiconductors that are central to numerous defense technologies such as radar, solar cells, sonars, and optical electronics. It is also increasingly important in modern lithium battery chemistries used in a multitude of weapon system supply chains. For these and other reasons, on November 7th, 2025, the Department of the Interior, acting pursuant to the Energy Act of 2020, designed phosphate as a critical mineral. Okay, so that's phosphate elemental. Phosphorus is also a critical precursor element for the production of glyphosate based herbicides. Now that's interesting that this phosphate it does all of these um, mechanical things, but there's another element of this product that they're using on our food. Like that's what doesn't make sense to me. I'm like, I wouldn't use anything that I was making to use a gun, I wouldn't use any runoff for people. I mean, to me, that just doesn't make a lot of sense. But here we are, which play a critical role in maintaining America's agricultural advantage by enabling farmers to efficiently and cost effectively produce food and livestock feed. As the most widely used crop protection tools in United States agriculture, glyphosate based herbicides are a cornerstone of the nation's agricultural productivity and rural economy, allowing United States farmers and ranchers to maintain high yields and low production costs while ensuring that healthy, affordable food options remain within reach of all American families. Well, that's just not true. Because you heard what the woman said about glyphosate, and it does cause cancer. This is why Kennedy was fighting against it. But let's hear from the regenerative rancher. That's Casey. We've had her on the show before, and she's got some things to say about this.
Government just called a controversial farm chemical a national security priority. Yeah, glyphosate, the main chemical in Roundup. The government just announced plans to increase domestic production because they say American agriculture depends on it. Let that sink in. A chemical that has billions, not millions, billions of dollars in lawsuits, now being labeled essential to national security. And here's the part nobody is talking about. Consumers have almost no idea if that chemical is in their food. There's no label, no transparency, no testing requirement. So while everyone argues about whether it's safe or not, most Americans are eating food that has never been tested at all. And that's exactly why we built the American Rancher Alliance certification programs. Every animal in our verified and certified programs is tested through independent labs, not just for glyphosate, but also antibiotics and hormone residues. Because if Americans are going to eat beef, they deserve to know exactly what's in it. Truth, transparency, and real American ranchers behind it. Would you want your beef tested for chemicals, or do you trust the system the way it is?
Yeah. Yeah. Go arabeef.org. Check her out. That's Casey. That is the regenerative rancher. I've got to have her back on to really get into it and talk about this because this is bad. And what she's saying is true. It's like there's no label telling you if glyphosate is in your food. The way you can find it out, honestly, is if you come across a YouTube video where somebody's like, yeah, it's in here. There's a few protein powders. They claim to be like the raw vegan protein powders and they're all good for you. Yep, Roundup. Roundup has been found in those. I don't use them anymore. There are a few places I don't go out and get my smoothies anymore because I have to make sure that my food is good. I have to be really careful about what's happening, washing our food, making sure that these chemicals aren't getting into our bodies. It's really sad and disgusting how they're okay with making us sick. They're just they're okay with it. And so I did run the executive order through Grok, right? Because I wanted to just get a summary and breakdown. So it declares elemental phosphorus a key industrial chemical and glyphosate based herbicides, right? The active ingredient in products like Roundup as critical to national defense and security. Elemental phosphorus supports military applications, munitions like smoke, incendiary devices, semiconductors for defense tech, sensors, and batteries, and serves as a precursor for glyphosate production. Glyphosate is highlighted as essential for U.S. agriculture, enabling high crop yields, low cost, effective food feed production, and affordable food, thus tying into food supply security. The U.S. relies heavily on imports, over 6 million kilograms of elemental phosphorus annually, with limited domestic production. Only one main producer insufficient for needs. The order finds this creates vulnerabilities to foreign disruptions, threatening military readiness and agriculture. So, delegates, presidential, DPA authority, prioritizing contracts allocating materials to the Secretary of Agriculture, um, directs the Secretary to set nationwide priorities, allocate resources, issue orders, rules, and ensure actions do not jeopardize the viability of domestic producers, and provides certain immunities for complaint procedures under the DPA. Yeah, certain immunities. I wonder who those immunities are going to apply to. So, no specific timelines or new funding are mandated. Implementation is subject to existing law and appropriations. So, potential benefits to the American people: strengthens national security by reducing reliance on foreign supplies of materials vital for defense technologies and munitions, supports food security and affordability by safeguarding domestic production of glyphosate, which farmers widely use to maintain high agricultural yields, control costs, and keep food prices lower, preventing potential shifts to less efficient farming or higher imports. Excuse me. Protects domestic jobs and industry in phosphorus mining, processing, and herbicide manufacturing, bolstering rural communities and supply chain reliance. Mitigates risk from global shortages or geopolitical disruptions affecting these critical inputs. Now, here are the potential harms or concerns: health and environmental risk from increased production, emphasis on glyphosate, which has faced ongoing controversy and lawsuits over alleged links to cancer, non Hodgkin lymphoma, endocrine disruptor, and other effects. Despite regulatory approvals, critics, including health advocates and some lawmakers, argue this prioritizes industry over public health protections and could limit future restrictions or liability. Potential reduced accountability via DPA immunities for producers, which some view as shielding companies, Bayer, Monsanto, from lawsuits related to health or environmental harms. Environmental impacts from expanding phosphorus mining and herbicide use, such as water pollution or ecosystem effects, as raised by groups concerned about clean water. Unusual framing of commercial herbicide as a national defense priority, which critics see as overreach to benefit specific industries rather than broadly addressing diverse threats. So, overall, the order prioritizes supply chain security or defense in agriculture, but has sparked debate, with supporters seeing it as pro farmer and pro security, while opponents highlight health and environmental trade offs. And that is a lot to trade off and think about, because it's like, okay, I'm putting my health in your hands, literally putting my health in your hands. And what's the benefit on the other side, right? And I think that's going to come back to the health links, because they told people to stop using Roundup, right? Back at just a few years ago, because they were like, yeah, it could be linked to cancer, and they said that word very loosely because they needed to get the documentation to support it because of the reported cases of cancer happening from people's exposure to it. Now, Roundup, what a lot of people don't know is it's a weed killer, right? You rarely don't see the commercials on TV, because there used to be like a big push, like using Roundup, and you would see the man out there spraying his lawn or whatever. You don't see those commercials anymore. And if you are seeing them, maybe it's geographic, because I'm not seeing them the way I used to. Yeah, they had to back up off of it because it was harming people. And they were like, and that was to kill the weeds in your grass, because children and people walk on grass. They sit in grass. We are human beings. Can't use chemicals everywhere. People started getting sick from eating certain types of food. So here's the counter to that. Let's not complain. Let's just go to the farmer's market, where we know, like I have one not too far from where I live, and he goes out of his way to make sure that there are no pesticides used on any of the food that he aggregates for his farmer's market. He's been doing it over, he said 30 or 40 years now. And he was like, yeah, I had to let go of a few farms that I was getting food from because they started using different pesticides. And I refuse to sell people food that has been sprayed with these pesticides. And I respect it. And the food's good. So I'm like, okay, what are we doing? So it can be done. Again, let's not complain about the system. Let's just figure out how to work around it. Because the system is always going to be there. And we are seeing that it is not for us. Right? Because I'm definitely pretty sure the people at 1%, the people with a lot of money over the rest of us, they're not eating glyphosate. They're not eating Roundup. They're getting the healthiest stuff available. They're not eating what we're eating. And that's not right. It isn't. And it needs to stop. Everybody's like, well, somebody's for us. Nobody is for you. Okay? And nobody's coming to save you. It is up to you to do what's right. This is why you have free will. You do not have to do anything. Okay? So maintain your freedom and make sure that you're doing what's best for you and your family. And with that, we're going to take a quick break. And when we return, we're going to get into some more of this news on the other side. And I just want to thank you guys for joining me here on Unfiltered Vision News. And we will see you on the other side.
A life empowered is closer than you think. We're all looking for a better way. Reimagine what's next with a new sense of exuberance. Why not power on like you mean it? Or power off blissfully? A better sleep is a better awake. You've never moved like this before. Energy nature intended. reprogramming the way you look at the speed of science. At longevity. At exhilaration. It's next level rejuvenation. Taking your well-being from the inside out and outside in. The light within is ready to ignite. Be the light. LifeWave.
And for more information on LifeWave, you can reach out to lifewave.com/Noni CMS LLC. And that is where you can actually reach out to me, where I can assist you in getting any type of products through X39, which are the patches, and they have some other different products with LifeWave, which is very good. It's a very good product. I've used it myself. It's helped me. So I want to definitely make sure I'm helping others. And it also supports the channel. And then another way that you guys can support the channel is through unfilteredvisionnews.com. This is where you can get the full length videos, because I do take the videos down after they have been up. So if you guys want to get the full length videos again, and that's one way to support the channel, by getting a subscription. Another way of supporting the channel is by purchasing the merch that we have on the channel. We have an album by Divine Echo Collective, and it is titled Heaven Touch Earth. It's some really good inspirational gospel music on there. Then we also, again, we've got our faith collection, hats, t-shirts. As you can see, we got the baby onesies here, little notebooks, also your UVN merch, coffee mugs, sweatshirts, shoes, and all of this goes to support the channel so I can stay on air, because I've only given myself a year to do this. So if this is not making me any money by June 1st, so I'm really on the clock the next couple of months. And I'm not trying to make a lot of money. I just want to make enough money to stay on the air, right? Just to make enough money to stay on the air so I can continue to bring you guys good, solid information that you can use daily to help out yourself, your family, friends, right? That's what this is all about. It's not about being a millionaire. It's about doing what's right by others. Okay. And I'm also trying to get monetized on YouTube, getting closer to that. So, every subscription helps. Every like helps. Every time you guys share it with somebody else, that also helps on YouTube. Right now, we've got over 800 subscribers, which is wonderful. Just trying to get those watch time hours up so we can get the full monetization. So even if I got to monetization, yeah, we're staying on the air. So that's what we're chasing. Or I'm going to have to hang it up and retire for real, because it is expensive to stay on the air. So your guys' support would be greatly, greatly appreciated. And so now we're going to get into our next article of news. Now, this one's a little bit different. When I came across it, I was like, whew, okay, that's different. Now, this is a current contract with OpenAI. So if you guys remember, we'll kind of dial it back to a year ago. And, Donald Trump was talking about all the relationships that he had made with the tech, they call them the tech bros, right? All the technical giants were up there, and it was like a $500 billion investment. They were talking about Stargate and just all kinds of other things going on. Well, OpenAI is definitely in the mix, and they have a contract with the federal government. So let's look more into how that contract will affect us.
Welcome back. OpenAI facing some criticism over domestic surveillance concerns as the company signs a new agreement with the Pentagon to deploy its advanced AI systems in classified environments. The two sides creating new language around those concerns, reading, quote, AI systems shall not be intentionally used for domestic surveillance of U.S. persons and nationals. The department understands this limitation to prohibit deliberate tracking, surveillance, or monitoring of U.S. persons or nationals, including through the procurement or use of commercially acquired personal or identifiable information. Joining me now is the Chief Financial Officer of OpenAI, Sarah Frier. Sarah, it's great to see you again. Thanks so much for being here this morning. And, of course, we've been talking so much about what went on at Anthropic, and Anthropic saying, look, we're not going to even work with the Pentagon. We're afraid of this surveillance. One of the companies, your company's top research executives, resigned over the weekend over this Pentagon deal, citing concerns over surveillance of the American people. What can you tell us about this and the worry over surveillance?
Sure. Thank you, Maria. Look, Sam, I thought, answered this really well last week at the Morgan Stanley conference. He started, and it's something I agree with, saying, look, we live in a society that is a miracle. And the reason it's a miracle is largely because of the democratic process. And because of that, we think really three things. Number one, national security decisions must remain with democratic governments. AI companies need to operate within democratic processes. And we think that ultimately an elected government needs to retain this authority over just how powerful these technologies have become and are being used to protect the country. But second, it's going to require collaboration between the labs and the government. And because of that, we felt it was important that we set in place strong guardrails to make responsible collaboration possible. So in particular, as you've noted, clear red lines on no autonomous weapons, no domestic surveillance, and in fact, making sure that some of our people can be deployed into the government, fully badged, but forward deployed engineers from OpenAI to make sure it's happening appropriately. But most importantly, we view this as part of the democratic process.
Yeah, and you think you can do that? Because, I mean, look, Sarah, the truth is the reality is there's surveillance in the world. I mean, I don't know who to worry about more. You know, the U.S. having surveillance or Beijing, because China is having massive surveillance programs throughout the United States, and that's no secret. We know that. So you believe you have come up with a good medium in terms of what can be done and what can't be done in terms of government and OpenAI's partnership?
We do. And we've found, actually, working with the government, that they've been very constructive on this. And I think you go down the right thought path here on thinking about China. It's vital that the U.S. stay on the frontier, right? Leadership in AI comes down to compute, it comes down to talent, it comes down to infrastructure. And that's exactly what, for example, the big funding round that we just did is all about. Today, the U.S. has major structural advantages. We have the leading AI labs, we have the top chip companies, we have the strongest research universities, and we have the deepest capital markets. And when that ecosystem works together alongside the government, innovation accelerates. And the priority has to stay on execution. And that means building the compute backbone, that means deploying AI across the economy, it's making sure that we're driving GDP productivity. And then I think it also is about national security, too. When one side has stronger weapons than another, bad things can happen. And so we need to make sure that we in the U.S. have the right access.
Yeah, I mean, on Friday, I made the point, you know, it's really scary to think that there could be domestic surveillance, massive domestic surveillance. But you know what's even scarier? China using domestic surveillance throughout America and deepening that. I mean, Beijing says it's accelerating its military technology and the use of AI on the battlefield. Talk to us about how the Pentagon contract will enhance America's military advantage over China and what specifically you want to see done and not done when it comes to AI uses on the battlefield, Sarah.
Yeah, look, I think, first of all, to go up a level, AI has become a daily utility in our life, right? We're seeing across society, people are putting AI to work. It's happening in education. It's happening in healthcare. It's causing incredible breakthroughs in science. We're already seeing that. And the scale just tells the story, right? ChatGPT serves 900 million weekly active users. 50 million of them are subscribing because they see such benefit in that intelligence. Last week, we just deployed our most recent recent model, ChatGPT 5.4. It's our most capable frontier model. And it's really important that that model is available across all of these verticals, including the government. Our focus continues to be twofold. One, continuing to push the frontier on what AI is capable of, and two, turning it into capabilities and products that people everywhere can benefit from. And we want to make sure this breakthrough in this technology becomes very real for people, real economic value being created in the United States and across the globe.
Yeah, no, and I love that, and I was going there next in terms of this launch, this new version of ChatGPT that you launched last week, the 5.4 model, promising sharper reasoning and improved accuracy, faster responses, and improved capability to tackle more and complex tasks. Congratulations on the launch, Sarah. But I mean, what I'm trying to understand better is, you know, this idea of autonomous weaponry on the battlefield, because I mean, to me, as a naive person in terms of all of this technology, I would prefer to see machines on the battlefield than humans. But the issues that Anthropic brought up was that, you know, the machines can just get too aggressive, I guess.
Look, I think ultimately we're talking about technology that has become, you know, incredible in terms of its scale and its abilities. But this comes back to, how do we want our society to function? We believe strongly in the democratic process. And to that end, we believe strongly that you need to work alongside democratically elected governments. We know it's going to need collaboration. And in OpenAI, we wanted to actually take the baton and run towards this to say, okay, there is a way to do this within a framework that gets everyone comfortable. It's going to need close cooperation. And because of that, we want to make sure there are the right guardrails in place. And in particular, be clear on our red lines. No autonomous weapons, no domestic surveillance. And we think we've gotten to a place with the Department of War, with the government on this front, which allows us to keep coming back to, why are we doing all of this? We see it as a way to break through technology, to create real economic value for the United States, for the world writ large. And just some of the outcomes we're seeing at companies, breakthroughs in science, breakthroughs in healthcare, and just even how everyday consumers use this technology, right? Yeah. Today, if I put my blood test into ChatGPT, it can give me as good a second opinion as any doctor. And that's an amazing thing for people who might live in health deserts, for example.
Yeah, it sure is. And I love the impact on healthcare. Talk to us about some of the deals you've done, Sarah. OpenAI and Amazon forming this new multi-year strategic partnership to bring new and advanced AI capabilities across the world. Amazon invested $50 billion in the company, whose models will run on the AWS platform. I mean, this AI infrastructure costs are exploding, and we know that. So another question is, who ultimately pays for all of this? I mean, is it big tech partners, enterprise? Is it consumers? Because we talk every day about the cost of this AI infrastructure, and it's going up and up.
Yeah, well, really what's happening is the demand is going up and up, Maria, right? As people get ChatGPT into their hands and they see that it's the best search engine they've ever had, but now it's plus plus, the demand is just skyrocketing. Yeah, our free users do about 7 questions per day, but our first tier of paid users double it, our next tier triple it, and at our top tier, they 11x it. So as people see real intelligence in their lives, they want more of it. It kind of reminds me back in the day when I first got a flip phone, you would have never persuaded me I would have paid hundreds of dollars per month for it. And now I couldn't imagine life without my phone. We're on that sort of demand curve. What does it take to meet that demand curve? It takes compute, it takes energy, it takes large-scale systems. This is why we are fundraising at the scale we're at, $110 billion. It's a historic fundraise. And that allows us to double down on building foundational AI infrastructure, large pockets of it here in the United States. And of course, as you mentioned, we're working with a partner like Amazon. We have a new product we'll launch with them. It's called a stateful runtime, but let me put that into real English. Think about an assistant that's working with you two, it retains memory. Imagine if you were working with someone and they had to start from scratch every time they spoke to you. You had to reintroduce yourself. In this case, now with the stateful runtime, you have a product going into enterprises that's going to help deploy agents. That means you can get so many tasks done across the enterprise, from R&D to places like finance and so on.
I mean, Sarah, you are in this moment in time, which is incredible. I mean, that's why OpenAI has seen this surge in business, surge in demand, over $21 billion in revenue, 900 million weekly users, 50 million subscribers, 9 million business users. That capital raise, congratulations, $110 billion just in the latest funding round. The president knows this. He's looking at AI, I think, as national security. But we also understand the cost of electricity. So give us your sense there. These AI data centers require massive electricity. How big of an energy issue is this becoming? And what's your take on the president saying, look, when you've got your AI data center that you're building out, the cost is on you, whatever company that is?
Yeah, look, we think that's very fair. And in fact, we stood up, I think now more than a few weeks ago, and said, we will make sure that electricity prices do not go up in places where we're putting data centers. In fact, we're proud to be putting infrastructure into the United States and building this backbone here. As I mentioned before, what has the United States really got going for it in AI in order to stay the frontier? We have the best technology, the best labs. We have the best chips. We have the power and the data center capacity, and we have the deepest capital markets. And that's what it's going to take to keep bringing this technology into the mass market. Think of it like electricity back in the day. You've just turned on the first light switch of the house, and you're trying to explain what else could we do. And you haven't even started to understand you're going to have a TV, you might heat your home, you're going to cook with this. All of the things that will come as more and more intelligence gets deployed. But you're right, we have to be responsible citizens, and we will continue to be.
Sarah, do you expect, a lot of investors want in on this, do you expect the IPO to be this year?
We are going to make sure that we're public company capable. It's good hygiene for a company to have all of the processes, the people, and so on in the right place on the back end. We want to keep building trust with our customers, building trust with our government, and so on. And so as part of that, certainly if you were a public company, we would welcome the scrutiny that we'd get from bodies like the SEC. That said, you never know when a market is going to be ready for you, or if you're going to be ready for it. And the great news about raising $110 billion, maybe a little bit more right now as we bring in financial investors, is we have de-risked a lot of that process. So it puts us into a real position of strength.
So I think that was a yes. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
No comment on a date.
I got you. Sarah, real quick before you go, real quick, do you want to say anything about jobs? You've got colleagues out there saying that 50% of white-collar jobs are going to be automated within 1 to 3 years. Not colleagues at OpenAI, but Anthropic, Microsoft, talking about all these jobs going away. And you say?
I say jobs are going to transform. I don't want to be completely Pollyanna-ish about it. Let's be honest. Every technology wave has put some jobs, to the side, and I think AI is going to be no different. That said, I do think that it will also create a lot of net new jobs that we can't even imagine today. It's why we've been investing in our jobs platform. We announced that back last September. Why we've been investing in curriculum and helping people upskill and reskill themselves. It's why we're investing at the school level. For example, the government of Estonia has ChatGPT wall-to-wall across all their high school students. And we just did a study that shows learning improves. So I do think that there is massive transformation coming. I think it's going to happen quite fast. And it means we as a company, as a government, as all of the institutions around AI, we have a responsibility to make sure people make this transition. But I don't think it's helpful to also go out and scare people, right? We need to bring people along on this trust journey.
Absolutely. All right, Sarah, we're going to be watching it all. Thanks very much. Great to see you.
But see, the downside that the lady's not talking about is the environmental impact with these data centers. And, I had Simon Nelly on with us Tuesday to really talk about, the runoff of these data centers. It does mess up the environment. It does mess up the water. His idea was like, they should be actually running on a hydrogen base to cool the data centers, which would make a lot more sense. And it would actually produce a cleaner water out of the facility. And I was like, well, why aren't they doing that? Because they're not being called to do it. And no one's standing in the gap and saying, hey, you need to do this, because if you because once you destroy it, you can't get it back. That's the problem with these data centers. And if you can get it back, it's going to be a long haul to get it back. And who pays for that? Who's responsible for that? Right? And to me, it should be the company in the data center. What are you bringing? What are you bringing really to the table? Because it seems like you're taking more than what you're bringing. You're coming in at a negative with these data centers. And that's just my opinion, right? So I wanted to look a little bit deeper into it. And says for broader context on OpenAI and government ties, right? In 2025, OpenAI launched OpenAI for Government, and they won a $200 million DoD contract for frontier AI prototypes in warfighting and enterprise use, and secured a GSA deal-making ChatGPT enterprise available government-wide for just $1 per agency. Partnerships already existed with national labs, NASA, NIH, Treasury, and the Air Force Research Lab. So OpenAI quietly dropped earlier bans on military applications in late 2024 and began partnering with defense contractors. So the lobbying surge, OpenAI spent nearly $3 million on federal lobbying in 2025 alone, pushing for favorable policy and lighter regulation. Yeah. Pay to play. Pay to play. February 26th was a turning point. Rival Anthropic clashed with the Pentagon over the same issues, domestic surveillance and autonomous weapons, and was essentially sidelined. Hours later, OpenAI announced its deal, negotiated red lines. Critics, including some insiders and analysts, argue OpenAI's language is softer, any lawful use, deference to existing law, while supporters credit Altman's team for extracting stronger privacy protections than the Pentagon initially offered. Now, let's just be real. After 9/11 and the Patriot Act, everybody knows that the Fourth Amendment has been shredded and not protected. And this makes it even worse. Yeah, we're under surveillance. We've been under surveillance since 9/11. Okay. This was everybody's complaint about the Patriot Act. This just justifies it. Just saying. Nobody asked us. There's a small group of people in a room. It's a big club. We're not a part of it, even though they keep saying, hey, American people, we need your support in this. Is this to get us to fight with one another? Is this to get us to support you? Like, I don't understand anymore, because right now you're making yourself the enemy of the people. Government, all of you, Republicans, Democrats, if you are in Washington, you are making yourself an enemy of the people doing stuff like this and not really looking at it long term. Because for the life of me, I cannot understand why nobody who talks about these data centers talks about the environmental impact of them. Nobody talks about it. They just talk about, oh, it's so brilliant. It's so wonderful. Yeah, it leaves a lot of electricity and we'll just have to pay for it. Okay, so you pay for it, but who's paying for it when it's absorbing their electricity in their area? You're not putting this thing in a desert. You're putting it around other humans. That's the problem. Now, if you were putting it out in the middle of nowhere, I might not care. I might not care because nobody else is there to be affected by it. But that's not what you're doing. You're putting this in places where there are other humans that it could affect negatively. I'm just saying, let the lawsuits begin. Let it begin. So what this means for the American people. So here's a clear-eyed breakdown of likely near and medium term effects. So, national security upsides: faster, smarter AI tools for cyber defense, intelligence analysis, logistics, and threat detection could strengthen deterrence and protect U.S. interests abroad. Okay. Government efficiency and taxpayer impact. AI is already being rolled out to cut paperwork, speed up veteran health care claims, improve acquisition data analysis, and streamline services. The $1 per agency chat GPT deal and similar contracts aim to save billions in administrative costs, money that could eventually lower taxes or improve services. Economic and job transformation. AI's growth and broader AI boom, it fuels, creates high paying tech and engineering jobs and keeps U.S. innovation leadership. The $110 billion funding round in Amazon partnership shows massive private capital flowing into American AI. On the flip side, AI will automate many routine white collar and even some technical jobs. The video itself discusses the future of jobs shift. Retaining the adaptation will be essential. Privacy and civil liberties risk. This is the biggest flashpoint. Even with red lines, powerful AI plus classified access plus lawful use. Language raises legitimate worries about mission creep. Okay. Public reaction include the videos shows widespread distrust. If enforcement is weak or future administrations reinterpret the rules, the same technology that protects the country could erode privacy at home. Watchdog groups and Congress will need to stay vigilant. Geopolitical edge. By partnering with a leading U.S. AI lab instead of letting China pull ahead, the government is betting that America controlled frontier AI deliver long-term strategic and economic advantages to citizens, stronger military, better diplomacy, and continued tech dominance. So the bottom line for everyday Americans, this deal is a high stakes trade-off. Faster national security and government modernization in exchange for heightened scrutiny on privacy and ethical guardrails. The benefits to defense and efficiency are concrete and already rolling out. The risk to civil liberties are real, but were explicitly negotiated against in the contract. Ongoing congressional oversight, independent audits, and public pressures will determine whether the upside outweighs the downside. Yeah. Like I said, they don't talk about that stuff. And details on picture could shift quickly. The story is moving fast. Yeah. And those are the parts that they, in my opinion, they're just not talking about. It's like you can't just be like, yeah, this is super great and not talk about like, well, what happens in the downside? It's really crazy. And Patty Cake says they don't talk about it because they're greedy. Facts. Facts. And it's like, yeah, you're not gonna mess up my money. But I can totally destroy your life because by the time your life is destroyed, I've made my money. So then I have enough money to kind of pay you off, right? What's $100,000 settlement to me if I've made over $100 billion? I'm just saying, numbers are numbers, facts are facts. They don't care. Because if they did, like I said, they would have actually thought this through. Nobody's thinking this script through. And I'm like, I am not the smartest bulb, on the shelf. But my first thing is when I heard about how data centers were destroying a small town in Georgia, I've started raising alarm and concern. And then everybody's like, oh, yeah. I'm like, yeah. But see, you're not concerned about it because it's not affecting you. It's affecting somebody else, so you don't care. And those are the people that we need to make sure are not in office. I really want to hear some of these politicians start to talk about the effects of the data centers. That's why I really appreciated Simon coming back on the show on Tuesday to really give us a little bit more insight on that. Now we're going to get to our next article. Now this is about the NIL. So apparently Nick Saban and the president had a meeting last week. I don't know, maybe some of you guys have heard about it. Maybe you haven't. When my husband watched the video with me last night, I was like, what? Oh, I've got to cover this on the show. So let's check this out.
We probably starting World War III in the Middle East. Donald Trump has time for this.
So we have to save college sports and save, I believe, colleges.
Now, apparently a bunch of millionaires, billionaires, investors, and conference commissioners got together, led by Nick Saban of all people.
I think we have a challenge here today about the ramifications of this current system, on how it helps players be successful in their future.
To complain about college athletes, primarily football players, finally earning money through NIL deals.
We put in a lot of work as college student athletes. People look at it as just NIL, just a quick way to get some quick cash. But at the end of the day, it can also be a source of networking.
But it's very clear to see what this is really about. For decades, universities, TV networks, coaches, athletic departments got billions of dollars off the backs of college athletes.
It was found that Bush had accepted improper benefits while on campus, including cash, travel expenses, and a rent-free San Diego area home.
Well, we don't have any choice but to disassociate ourselves with Reggie Bush, who was part of the NCAA sanctions. I've agreed with President-elect Max Nikias' decision to send the Heisman Trophy back and take his jersey out of the Coliseum.
But all of a sudden, now that student athletes can finally profit off their own name, image, and likeness, suddenly the people at the top are saying the system is broken and want to fix it. And by fix it, they mean turn back the clock.
I knew this was going to be coming, but I didn't think these people were this crazy. In the middle of a war, they're going to have a whole round table discussion on NIL, how to stop these black kids from making money? Really? Really?
But I'm Jew. Welcome to the channel. Please like and share the video. Don't forget to sub. Now, let's get into it.
The amount of money being spent and lost by otherwise very successful schools is astounding just in a short period of time. It's only going to get worse. So we have to save college sports and save, I believe, colleges. Ultimately, we have to go through, I guess we have to go through, I'd do an executive order. I'd love to do that. I'll probably do it anyway. We'll do an executive order. We'll see how it works. Because
You know what's funny? Because Republicans are always talking about they need less government. What are you doing? This is none of your business. I'm sorry. On this one, I got to call a spade a spade. Stop. Stop. So I just have a few questions as we go through this video. Okay. So why are Republicans trying to grow government through educational institutions? Like, stop. I wanted you to execute for what? It's none of your business. Let them succeed on their own, right? Okay. Now, why aren't the students represented, and why was this one-sided? We'll get to that. Now, just understand there's nobody representing the students here, but there's Nick Saban and all of his lobbying that he's been doing, crying basically about how these students are making money and it's messing up. This is the same man who made over $150 million over his coaching career. Yeah, I will say that again, $150 million. It's disgusting. That's disgusting that you made that kind of money being a college coach. Yes, I'm going to say it. That's disgusting because it's not like you were out making anything and selling anything. You were just profiting off of the backs of others. Let's just keep it a buck. Now, it says, if Republicans truly subscribe to free capital, why is this a problem when young men are being businessmen and owning their right and likeness? They're stepping up to the plate and making sure that there's contractual guardrails in place so they're not being taken advantage of. Really? And that's a problem? Okay. And why is this predominantly about black players when white players benefit from this also? So those are just some of the questions that I had. So I just want to keep, those questions top of mind as we go through the rest of this video.
it would be a really nice, I have a really nice, simple idea. They are canceling golf, they're canceling wrestling, they're canceling fencing, they're canceling even basketball. I thought that would be maybe immune, but it's in trouble. And it's all going to football. But ultimately football is going to be.
Football has always been the primary moneymaker for most of these colleges. I think basketball too. So the money made off the back of football players has always funded other sports in colleges. So I guess they're saying now that players are getting a bigger cut of the pie is limiting the school's ability to fund other sports. But how is that those players' problem? And why is the president involved with anything happening in college sports anyway?
The worst laggard of all. It's not going to be affordable, and it's going to take down practically every college. In my opinion, it's going to take down virtually every college.
President Donald Trump said rising football costs and NIL contracts, which is name, image, likeness, are harming college sports and may require legislation or an executive order. All of a sudden, after decades, players finally get to make money off their name, image, likeness, and now it's the biggest problem in the world that's hurting colleges. That's ridiculous.
When Americans are losing their life, they're talking about NIL, but that tells you the urgency of it all. That tells you Nick has been working and plotting on this for the very longest. Go back. He's been over there caping with Ted Cruz, talking to senators. He has been lobbying to stop this for a very long time. I knew this was going to be coming, but I didn't think these people were this crazy. In the middle of a war, they're going to have a whole round table discussion on NIL, how to stop these black kids and these white kids from making money? Really? Really?
Of course, Jamel Hill spoke on it. Y'all got to decide when capitalism is cool and when it isn't. It seems always cool for the ruling class, but it's not cool when the labor actually desires a bigger piece of the pie. Again, make up your mind. They have made up their mind. They want to get rich off the backs of athletes, a lot of black players, and don't want those black players to make money or have independence or be able to take care of themselves financially, which would allow them to make better financial decisions. Even though these schools are still getting millions of dollars off these players. America loves capitalism until it's young black athletes getting paid. Big fact. And I think the most egregious parts of this big summit that happened about college football is there were no college athletes invited to this summit or meeting for representation of the college athletic experience.
We put in a lot of work as college student athletes. That comes with a lot of hard work and sweat and all that stuff. So people look at it as just NIL is just a quick way to get some quick cash in their pocket and take care of things like this. But at the end of the day, it can also be a source of networking. I'm pretty big on networking and be able to meet people like Johnny Dane. It's just things like that that really set you up for the future and can get you, even bigger opportunities like that. So it's not just about the quick cash, but also just the networking piece. I think that's NIL has allowed, not only money, but networking as well, meeting cool people. The state of college football is changing for good or for worse, however you look at it. But, as an athlete, I have to take advantage of my time, my 4 years in college, every little bit of it, I'm taking advantage of it. And I've gotten to partner with some pretty cool people like Crumble and Powerade and things like that. And now Johnny Dang, it's increasingly getting even cooler. And, I'm getting more experience with talking to these big time people and the face of companies and just being able to present myself in a way at the business level.
There were mostly old white rich people that never even lived that life. And then you had somebody like Nick Saban who got his success by paying players under the table to play for him.
Coach, a very fine coach, Nick, who won a lot. You won a lot. How many? 6 national championships? You could have done better. You had a couple of games. Did you win 7? What did you, 6?
7.
7. All right, so I think he qualifies, right?
Bro won all of them chips illegally paying players. Now everybody can pay players and he can't win as easily, so he's hating. Let the kids get their money, set some ground rules and move on. Right, talking about regulating NIL deals, which is kind of the wild, wild west. But it's only that way because players were finally able to get out and get their own money with no system set up.
It's a mess. It's a mess. And I don't know whether or not that decision was appealed. Was that decision ever appealed? Does anyone know?
Donald Trump being involved in this reminds me of him demonizing Colin Kaepernick for taking the knee. He's always used these racist dog whistles and these issues that polarize people, mainly around black players or black people. And this is just another instance of that. All of a sudden, black players are getting money and getting paid, which they should have been getting all along, off their work, off their name and likeness. And now it's a problem.
Because I heard it was not appealed.
I believe the House settlement is being litigated now because it violates.
No, but was it appealed, the decision?
The The House settlement, I think.
The original decision by the judge from California, was that appealed?
He's such an incompetent person. Like, how does the president not know what was appealed and what wasn't before he gets out and speaks at a televised meeting or summit like this?
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I misunderstood.
Yeah, the answer is no. It was settled because it was, I think, the third
Why didn't
case.
somebody appeal it?
The prior case, which is Alston versus the NCAA, was appealed to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court found 9-0 against the college position to defend the old system. So that's...
If everybody else benefits off the work of a group of people and they don't get to benefit other than the scholarship, and I remember the argument of them trying to say, well, these scholarships are 120, 130,000. Those student athletes still weren't getting properly compensated for the work that they put in and for their name, image, and likeness being used by these schools to make millions of dollars.
I think the answer is the antitrust piece.
And see, it goes far beyond the school. You got to remember, I don't know if there anybody out there plays those video games, how they would come out annually with the college players. Now they can actually use the real college players' name, image, and likeness, because now those players are actually able to work with EA Sports. Before they couldn't. So they had names similar, right? But the colleges did have agreements with EA Sports, because it wasn't like you saw Michigan spelled the wrong way. No, it's like you had Michigan and Ohio State and all of these other colleges in those games. So the colleges are benefiting. So we're not, like I said, we're not even talking about that. We haven't even gotten to that conversation yet. But now these babies can tap into that and have their own agreements outside of the colleges and make money on the side that the colleges cannot intercept. You're mad. You're mad because the babies are making the money. It's disgusting. But Spud says, I really have come to hate Luke, but he's one of those broken clocks that only write twice a day. Yeah. I know. When I saw him, I was like, Lord, okay, Luke, let's get back to it.
Is the inherent problem in trying to create caps and limits. That's it.
So the Supreme Court was responsible for this? Gee, that surprises me.
I'm not the one who's going to say that. I'm not bold enough to say that, but I'll at least acknowledge the process.
9-0. 9-0.
Was the Supreme Court responsible for this?
9-0 and Kavanaugh supported.
He always gets mad and tries to deflect when the Supreme Court rules against him, because the Supreme Court is in the Republican favor. I think 6-3, which is 6 Republicans, 3 Democrats. Even though it's even weird for Supreme Court to have lifetime terms, it seems like they should be completely neutral parties that are ruling on issues that affect the future of this instead of politically motivated.
That's a shame. It's a shame. Yes, sir.
Nick Saban himself had a lot to say. College football's most decorated head coach, Nick Saban, spoke at the White House on Friday at a college sports roundtable hosted by Donald Trump. Saban called on lawmakers to fix issues he has seen at the collegiate level, where there are name, image, and likeness deals.
I'm just a football coach. I spent my life when we had the ball trying to get a first down, when they had the ball trying to get off the field on third down. So this is an unlikely position for me to be in to speak to such a distinguished group of people. Thank you. But I come here today with a question. What are the guiding principles for the future of college athletics? All athletic. I'm talking about football, basketball, Olympic sports, revenue, non-revenue, it doesn't matter. You know, my goal as a coach for my players, for our players, was to help them be more successful in life, that we would create an atmosphere and environment that would help them through personal development, academic support, 668 degrees and 17 years at Alabama, and help them develop careers.
This isn't just a Nick Saban thing. This is a college football thing. Players have always been told they are there to play football. Everything else is secondary. Coaches have told student athletes for decades they're on campus to play ball, not for an education. Their majors have also been predetermined. Now these same coaches are raising the issue that colleges are in trouble or college athletes aren't taking the academic part of college seriously, and it's all because of NIL deals.
Football player, that was our goal, so that they were creating value in life and we were preparing them for their future past athletics. So what happened? You know, in this current system that we have, that became impossible to do because people, instead of making decisions about creating value for their future, they were making decisions about how much money could they make at whichever school they could go to.
That is making value about your future. Hello? What are you talking about? No, it became about the money. You're about the money, sir. Mr. 150 million. That's what we're going to nickname Nick Saban. His name is now 150 million. That's what we're going to call it.
Or transfer to. So
just like coaches. Coaches could get millions of dollars, get fired, still get paid millions of dollars, take a better deal at another school, and leave their players hanging, the players that they've recruited to come there to play for them. Coaches have always had mobility, while players who weren't even getting paid at the time were stuck.
I think we have a challenge here today about the ramifications of this current system on how it helps players be successful in their future and how we can impact and create a system that will help and preserve the opportunity for student athletes to be able to have success in their future beyond athletics. So we need to develop an effective system of
These college coaches do not care about anybody's future beyond athletics. Maybe some do if they have direct relationships with people, but on the whole, they're trying to win as much as they can to get as much recognition as they can for themselves, to get a bigger bag or coach at bigger schools or go to the NFL.
Revenue sharing, authentic name, image, and likeness, authentic being you have marketing value, which now we have collectives, which just create opportunities, which just become pay for play. Eligibility issues where we have guys playing 6, 7, and 8 years. So you have 25 and 26-year-old people playing against 18 and 19-year-olds, which is not healthy. Transfer rules, we have over 4,000 people in the portal. Fans don't like it, support groups don't like it. It's not really healthy for players in graduation to transfer several times in your career. You really put yourself in a pickle in terms of your ability to graduate. So I think we need to come up with a system, and we obviously have to do it with the president's leadership and also with Congress probably, whether it's antitrust legislation or whatever it is, to allow student athletes in all sports, including women's and Olympic sports, to enhance their quality of life while going to college, but still provide opportunity to advance themselves beyond their athletic.
Okay, then we would have to take all the money out of it. You can't sell any jerseys with their name on it. You can't use anything with their right and likeness on it, period. You can sell a jersey that says Michigan University, is it? With some 00. That's it. You sell some tickets. That's it. Bare minimum. That's not where you're at. You are making billions of dollars off of these babies. How dare you bring in antitrust? They're not doing anything. They haven't done anything. They're just being athletes. Are you kidding me right now? The only people that's been doing garbage and dirt are you coaches. Oh my goodness. I'm sorry. I'm passionate about this one, y'all. My goodness.
Career, which is what the philosophy of college athletics and getting a college education has always been about. And how much does anybody talk about getting an education anymore? Nobody talks about it at all.
This is cap.
Which is the most important thing any of these student athletes can do in terms of enhancing their future.
This is all code. Big facts. Man, please, most of these schools only care about athletes getting an education simply so they can stay eligible for their sport. Education is rarely a major priority for a lot of these coaches. Love Nick, but only difference now is the money isn't coming through the back door or side window. It's coming through the front door for all to see. I can tell you about Alabama and others dropping bags, cars, and so much more on kids long before it was put in the open. Right, now that it's a fair playing field and everybody can pay for the best players to come to their school, it's an issue. Or kids can make financially for themselves and their families and not just depend on the goodwill of a coach, it's an issue. Now, Nick, if education was ever the focus for real, you would have made it a point for all the kids to play all 4 years. Only difference, instead of coming in the back door with the money, schools can come through the front. We saw Blue Chips. Oh my God, Blue Chips. That was with Shaq and Penny recruiting Shaq all hard. Who was that, Gary Busey? Man, get the entire fuck out of here. College football made billions off these kids for decades, but now that the athletes are getting paid, suddenly their education is at risk. Kick rocks with that nonsense. I really think the hypocrisy, especially from Nick Saban, is what caught people so off guard. He got some fucking nerve. He paid players under the table the whole time he was at Alabama. Now it's a problem when everyone can pay. Right. Nick Saban made more than $150 million as a head coach. Complaining about players finally getting theirs is really a power grab more than anything else, and one to put people back in their place. Nick Saban is who we thought he was. These coaches make millions off of players and get in their feelings when players start making millions. Make no mistake, this is about black student athletes making bread. The reality of NIL is they don't like the kids having the power. It's not about money or entitlement. It's about kids getting paid for years. I think it's about money, entitlement, and kids getting paid and being able to be independent from what a coach is telling you or demanding of. Let me hear this take from an athlete, which I think is the biggest slap in the face. All these rich old guys in a room talking about athletes, talking about their experience without any athlete being invited in the room. Bring the athletes to the table if you want the truth. They don't want the truth. They want to turn back the hands of time to when they controlled everybody's life and options, especially for young players coming from rough areas. Not social, not the ones making billions off their success, the real ones. The college football meeting was a meeting of ex-slave holders trying to figure out how to get the slaves back on the plantation. The most powerful meeting in college sports is happening today. Tiger Woods, Nick Saban, Adam Silver, Condoleezza Rice, billionaire investors, power conference commissioners. They will likely discuss an antitrust exemption to let NCAA set its own rules without fear of lawsuits. You know who isn't invited? A single college athlete. And for direct pushback to Nick Saban's statements, we reached this point because college athletes were being exploited and the courts finally intervened. It's a Wild West scenario because when these people held power, they abused it. And they're looking to do that exact same thing again and completely dependent on a system that takes advantage of them while giving them very little or allowing them to get money on their own. Nick Saban at the White House trying to fix college sports is so ironic as he single-handedly broke it. First $10 million coach, architect of SEC arms race. ESPN paid billions for SEC rights, but they want players to get nothing. Urban Meyer addresses the college sports roundtable at the White House.
Trust, then you now will not get litigated. And I would eliminate, the only thing I dislike about the SCORE Act is that, and Coach Saban and I have visited about this, Mac Brown and I have visited about this, get rid of the collectives. That's cheating. When donors, so everyone understands what a collective is. Donors put money in a pot, it's distributed to players through the coach and the general manager according to your talent level. That's not allowed. You're not supposed to do that. That's called pay for play. So there's a revenue share that
It's only an issue now because there are other schools that can now be competitive monetarily wise, and it's given all the schools that have paid for play for decades a run for their money.
NIL, I think we all got to quit calling it that. It's not name and likeness. The players getting paid millions of dollars in some of the stories I hear, and they're posting on Instagram for twice, and then they're getting paid $1.5 million. So the NIL, to me.
But it's not a problem with football games or basketball games where consumers are literally buying those games to play as their favorite team, their favorite player, whose names can't even be in the video game because they can't pay them for name and likeness. That was fair, but they draw the line at a college athlete doing an Instagram post with his name and likeness and making money. This is crazy hypocrisy. There's no way that you can tell me or anybody else that this whole thing isn't about gaining control again of players, of putting them back in their place, of making them dependent again on a system that took advantage of them for decades, and it looks like it wants to again. Even the White House under Donald Trump having a say in this is just weird to me. But shout out to my channel members. Thank you so much for supporting, and thanks for watching. Y'all.
It's not weird. They're just like, help us rein in this thing that we no longer have control of. Guess what? You can't. You can't. You know why? Because you colleges are independent from the government. The only connection you have to the government are the Pell Grants, right? Or maybe if somebody takes out a loan under the government to go to your school. Your schools are government run. What are you doing? What are you doing? But I'm kind of glad you did it because it's showing everybody exactly who you are. Yeah, you can tell I am not a Roll Tide fan. I'm not. And I've been enjoying seeing them lose. I've been enjoying it. I've been basking in the humiliation of what Alabama has looked like for the past couple of years. Yeah, Roll Tide. That's what I'm talking about. I'm sorry. I'm in my feelings. Let me dial it back. Okay. So I did ask for some of the demographics, the breakdown before we end the broadcast today. So primary group, college football players, especially in revenue generating programs, right? The video centers around their earnings. Okay, so the race that it predominantly affects right now are Black athletes, heavily emphasized as the key demographic impacted and benefiting the speaker. Okay, so it's just going through the video. But I said, are there any other ethnicities that benefit from this in college sports? And I'm talking about this is the NIL. Yes. While NIL conversation, especially in the context of the video, centers heavily on Black athletes, particularly Black male football players who benefit disproportionately in high revenue sports and make up a large share of top earners, around 61% of the on three's top 100 NIL valuations in various reports. Athletes from other ethnicities also benefit significantly. So here's a breakdown. So white athletes, they represent a substantial portion of NIL earners overall. In some analyses of social media focused deals, white athletes generate more revenue despite being less likely to self identify as influencer. White athletes often dominate in women's sports, gymnastics, volleyball, and basketball. Stars like Paige Bucher, Lively Dune, and Haley Van Lith, who have landed major brand deals. And in non revenue sports, like strong personal branding, in broader NCAA demographics, white athletes are the majority, 57 to 61% of all student athletes. So they capture a notable share of NIL dollars, especially where market appeal aligns with certain demographics or aesthetics. Now, there are Hispanic athletes that make up 7%, Asian athletes, less common in revenue sports like football, basketball, but they benefit in sports like gymnastics, swimming, or volleyball. Some high profile examples exist, though they represent a smaller overall share. Now, other multiracial athletes identifying as two or more races, around 7% of NCAA participants, or other groups also secure deals. Okay. So, men's sports, we've always known the men's sports have the majority. Jewel Mighty mentioned it. Football has always been a very gigantic revenue share. Okay. As I said, can you give me an outline of what the Supreme Court ruling was? So this happened in 2021. Let's see. The challenge focused on caps on education related to benefits. Okay. In the lower courts, they found the rules were anti-competitive, depressing a compensation below market levels, and not necessary to preserve the amateur nature of college sports or distinguish it from professional leagues. An injunction was issued prohibiting enforcement of these specific limits. So the Supreme Court had a 9-0 decision by Neil Gorsuch, affirmed the lower court's injunction, held that the NCAA's compensation restraints are subject to standard antitrust scrutiny, rule of reason, not special difference, even though college sports requires some cooperation among schools, rejected the NCAA's argument for broad immunity or a quick look differential standard, noting the commercial realities of college athletics, right? And the challenged rules depressed athlete pay without sufficient pro-competitive justification, emphasized that the injunction was narrowly tailored. It allowed unlimited education-related benefits, but left intact other NCAA limits, no direct pay-for-play salaries, or unlimited non-education compensation from schools. Okay, so it strongly criticized the NCAA's broader amateurism model as potentially unlawful, suggesting further challenges to restrictions on direct compensation might succeed under antitrust law, right? This language signaled vulnerability in the NAA's overall system. So the ruling eroded the NCAA's ability to broadly restrict compensation, prompting the NCAA to adopt the interim NIL policy just days later, effective July 1st, 2021. This allowed athletes nationwide to earn from endorsements, sponsorships, and personal brand deals without losing eligibility rights previously banned under NCAA amateurism rules. But basically, the babies can get paid and the school can't get a cut. That's what this comes down to. And Nick is mad. They're mad because these babies can make the money and they can't get a cut. So that's where we're at. All right. I only got 2 minutes. And I'm not going to be able to read through all of this that I painstakingly went through to break down for you guys. But at the end of the day, I mean, that's where we're at. But I just wanted to see some of the top schools that were getting paid. The Texas Longhorns actually get $23 million. Okay, and these figures represent approximate annual NIL availability budgets for football programs, often tied to collective and donor-backed deals. Okay, so Ohio State Buckeyes, 20 million, Oregon Ducks, 19 million, Texas A&M Aggies, 18.5 million, Georgia Bulldogs, 17.5 million, Miami Hurricanes, 16.5 million, and Alabama comes in seventh at $15.5 million. Are you mad, Nick? Are you mad they're just not making more money off the backs of these babies? You're just disgusting. It's just gross. I don't like it. It's horrible. So, do any of these schools get federal funding? No, they don't get federal funding. They don't. They receive direct federal funding, specifically earmarked for they don't get it for their programs. So college athletic programs primarily fund themselves. All right. They got ticket sales, media rights. You're on ESPN. They get sponsorships. They got donor contributions. How much money do you need? Maybe you shouldn't be making $150 million and then you can have a decent girls sports team. Maybe you should spread the wealth. Maybe you shouldn't be directing all the money in certain areas. I'm just saying, spread the love. Because the money's coming in. You're just not sharing the love. You're mad. You're mad. You're so upset. So upset. So crazy. So crazy, crazy, crazy. I was trying to find a question that I asked it. So have graduation and academic rates fallen since the NIL? As Nick said, no. Graduation and academic success rates have not fallen since the introduction of NIL in 2021. In fact, they have remained at or near all-time highs, according to the official NCAA records. So stop sitting up there lying on people. Nick, you're just not batting 1,000 a day, bro. It's bad. Could a player request to not have NIL exploited by the university and media? Yes. So if a player went in there and he said, well, I don't want to do this. They don't have to. They don't. And the school would have to respect it, but they could still make money off a player. Yeah, there is still that. There's some opt out or negotiation options exist. But yeah, it's crazy. But, very limited ability to opt out because, there's broadcasters, there's ESPN, and they still want to make their money off of these babies. Y'all are just disgusting. So in essence, this is one of the side or benefactor is the school, even if the player doesn't want their NIL use. Yes, in many ways, the current system remains one-sided with the school, right? And broader institution conferences holding significant leverage over the use of the player's NIL, even when the player objects or doesn't want to exploit it in certain contexts. So even if they don't want to deal with it, they're still a part of it and the school still gets the benefit. So I said, so is the pay for play legal? I thought UNLV got sanctioned for that. Now, granted, it says no, outright play for play, meaning direct compensation explicitly tied to athletic performance, recruitment inductments or attendance participation remains prohibited under NAAC rules even in 2026. However, the landscape has shifted dramatically since House versus NCAA settlement approved in June of 2025, which introduced direct revenue sharing from schools to athletes up to 20.5 million or 21 million per school annually, scaling up yearly. This is often described as a form of legalized de facto pay for play because schools can now pay athletes directly for NIL use or as part of broader benefits without old, strict amateurism barriers, right? Because you're amateurs, we can't pay you. You're not professionals. So I was talking about the UNLV case. They had, I guess they must have, UNLV, y'all got some problems. I was talking about the 90s, Lord, and the basketball team. They got caught. ChatGPT were going back and forth. I was like, bro, I'm talking about something that happened like over 30 years ago. Like, what are you talking about? What are you doing? And Spud says, financial autonomy creates direct compensation, and competition has been the dominant society fears since the beginning of time. Absolutely. Cajun Lady, thank you so much for joining us. And Spud says we have to pay attention to this because sports is a microcosm of the real world. They're really talking about reparations. And this is, I have, let's see. And JJ, thank you so much. Good morning, peace and blessings. I know I'm running a little bit over time. I'm going to get y'all out of here, but I just, and this link will be in the repost so you guys can go through it. But yeah, I just wanted to bring up that whole situation that happened in the 90s. They were sanctioned. They came after UNLV. They received 2 years probation, ordered suspended for 2 years over recruiting violations, including improper benefits and lack of institutional control. UNLV served the probation, but Tarkanian fought it in court, winning injunctions, leading to a long legal battle that reached the U.S. Supreme Court in 1988. Tarkanian, where the NCAA won and jurisdiction grounds. Okay. And then I wanted to end it. There was something else that came up. I said, yes, what I meant. Can you briefly outline Lloyd Daniels? So Lloyd Daniels, nicknamed Sweet Pea, was highly touted basketball prospect in Brooklyn, New York. And he was born in 1967. So basically the summary of what happened to him, he went to college and all this, but it's a tragic what if story if immense talent wasted by personal demons, poor support systems, and off-court issues. His life was chronicled in the 1990 book Sweet Pea, the story of Lloyd Daniels and other playground legends, and the 2015 documentary The Legend of Sweet Pea. He represents the pitfalls of big-time recruitment in the pre-NIL amateur era, where exploitation and lack of oversight could destroy promising careers. Daniels survived and played pro ball longer than many expected, but his prime was lost, right? So caught up in the money, right? But that's not Nick Saban's angle. The bottom line is these coaches no longer have control of these players. And these players are like, okay, if I'm not going to get playing time here, I'm leaving, and I'm going to get more money if I go over to this college, and I'm going to turn around, I'm going to play against you. See, the babies are making moves and they don't like it. At the end of the day, that's what's happening. So with that, we're going to end the broadcast. But thank you guys so much for joining me here on Mighty Men Thursday here on Unfiltered Vision News. And remember, stay well, stay focused, and stay unfiltered. We'll see you in the next one.